everybody, and welcome to my review of the teaching scenarios from Chapter 8, and I hope that you enjoy this presentation. Okay, welcome to my virtual presentation on the teacher scenarios from Chapter 8. I really enjoyed reading this because I felt myself thinking, oh, yep, I've done that. And also, oh, wow, that's really great. I'd like to use that. So, and then also some things I was confused about. So I really enjoyed this, and let's get started. I got my little animations, Anyway, okay, so my first, I wanted to start with a little quote that I think was really applicable to the concept of lesson planning um, uh, and teaching delivery. So if you don't know where you are going, you'll end up someplace else. And that's very true. And I think that that's exactly what happened in Mrs. Hargrove's case. We'll get to that later. And honestly, it's happened to me many a time in my own classes when I don't have enough time to prepare, or I wasn't prepared enough, or I didn't know how to prepare correctly. And I ended up someplace I wasn't planning on going. And sometimes it can be still a really good lesson, and sometimes it's not. So let's make sure that we are great teachers by doing lots of lesson planning and really being prepared for our students. So here we go with Miss Chen. So Miss Chen, she gave clear language and content objectives, which is one of the biggest takeaways I've had from the SciUp method is this concept that we need to have language and content objectives that the kids know and that the teacher knows and the whole world knows, so that by the end of the lesson we can see, look how far we've come in this 40-minute time span or 50-minute time span, which is great. And I think that and Miss Chen did a really good job of articulating that. And then in her teaching, she used a list group label graphic organizer to begin with the question, what are the different reasons people move? So I think that this is a really great cognitive strategy, and it's culturally responsive as well. So she's utilizing the prior knowledge of her students in order for them to think about what are the different reasons people move, and putting that on paper and really thinking in depth about it. Now, personally, I probably wouldn't have used a graphic organizer for this, or I might have differentiated the instruction by giving the ELLs this graphic organizer and the rest of the students a quick write, or in order to think about it and then have a bit of a discussion, because I personally like to open up with discussion questions in order to get the conversation going about the topic. However, I think that this is a really great idea. And then she goes on to differentiate her instruction by doing a little jump start with her English language learners, in which she covers key vocabulary. As she uses realia with the fool's gold. She uses real maps and trails and the photos from the time period. And I think that doing all of this, prepping her ELLs, makes it so that they are confident going forward with the rest of the lesson. Now they've been, they've been scaffolded in order to go confidently and be able to talk to the other students about the topic, which is a really interesting one, but maybe something that they might not know about if they're from if they're language and culturally diverse students. They might not have ever heard about the gold rush before. So it's really important to have this kind of reflection and this kind of building background knowledge in order to move forward with the lesson so that they understand what's going on. And then she does a trail prediction activity, which is a really great metacognitive strategy. in which they had to predict, okay, well, this is the name of this trail. Where do I think this one goes? Where do I think that one goes? I think that's a really great strategy to get them using context clues, language. It combines language and content in order to really get them thinking about the lesson and get them interested in the concept of the Westward Trails. The quick write that she did with the other students is a great idea. What do I already know about the gold rush, right? So, and with her English language learners, she's building the background knowledge, and with the other students who probably have heard of it, um, what do you already know? What is your prior knowledge? And I think that that's really great and very strong teaching. So I just wanted to show some of the realia and photos that she might have used in class. So here we have some gold and some pictures of some of the pioneers. One thing that I would have done a little bit differently is also to maybe pass around the fool's gold and the photos to the rest of the kids too, because it doesn't seem like she did that. And everybody wants to handle fool's gold and look at cool pictures of old timey people. So I think that it would have been a great thing for her to do with them as well, not just to have the ELLs, be able to handle the cool stuff. So, okay, after all of this scaffolding and all of these great activities, she did the whiteboard activity, which is kind of more of the content, and then she did a reading comprehension graphic organizer, which I think is a really great idea. So as the students were reading, they had to organize things from the chapter into a graphic organizer so that they were able to apply. And I think that this is a really great cognitive strategy. um, this is where I would have used a graphic organizer instead of at the beginning and at the end, because I think one a class is probably enough. But it's a really great way for them to apply what they know, and it combines language and content. And make sure that they understand vocabulary. These are just my overall takeaways. So, uh, like I said, I would have used a discussion-based motivator, and because I think that it eliminates one graphic organizer, and I also think that it would have been great to have a cooperative learning exercise because it doesn't seem like there was any cooperative learning. But maybe next class there could be a readers theater, or they have to create their own play where they have to pretend to be the different pioneers. I think that would have been a really great way to continue with this lesson in the future. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't have time to do this in this lesson, but I think it would have been a good one to have in the future. Okay, so let's move on to Mrs. Hargroves. So Mrs. Hargroves did not have any clear language or content objectives. Um, and I think we've all been here, right? I mean, I know I have been where I didn't really have a real concept of what a good objective looked like, what it meant. I think that that is where Mrs. Hargroves' lesson really went off the trail. But um, and her lesson was very lecture and reading based. She lectured them about the gold rush, and then she read to them about the gold rush, and then they read about the gold rush, and that's pretty much it. There was no motivating question. There was no, um, you know, relation back to the students. Uh, and there were no culturally relevant connections. She didn't scaffold anything. She didn't go over any key vocabulary for them to be able to understand the lesson better. She used simplistic activities that didn't reinforce the content, like the coloring of the trails activity. I mean, by the end of the lesson, you will color 3 trails is not a real objective for a lesson. And it's very simplistic. It would be one thing if it was for kindergarten, but this is 4th grade and they should be able to take on more content. It seemed to me like this lesson was kind of on the fly. maybe she didn't have a lesson plan and she had to teach something that day, and yeah, this is what happened, right? But whatever the reason, it left the kids really confused. So Mr. Henson, he used a open-ended discussion question, which is, as I said, something that I like to do. Have you traveled to California? What are the different methods of travel? And I think that this is a really great open-ended discussion question for the students to engage with what's coming up and be able to relate their experience to that of the pioneers. I also really like that he used a lot of collaborative learning techniques like the jigsaw reading activity. Now, to be honest, I didn't really understand what the jigsaw reading activity was. Like I read the scenario and I don't know how to do it myself. And this is kind of one of those things where I think that a lesson plan accompanying these scenarios would have been really helpful so I can see how it's done, or just a little bit more explanation from the text. And I do like that he grouped the different proficiency levels, and it could have been an opportunity for differentiated learning too, where with the jigsaw reading. So I know that they did this activity and they have to kind of present back to the other students. I think that if the ELLs had been taken aside and reviewed one part of the chapter, then they would have been like more prepared and more confident going back to their group and being able to present that part of the chapter. I think that the mapping and descriptions activity is a really great way. I mean, it incorporates listening, speaking, writing, reading, everything. So I think that that's a really great, all-encompassing content and language activity. I really enjoyed this lesson overall, and I think that it would have been nice to have to pull in some of Mrs. Chen's realia and the photos and things like that. Overall, I think that Miss Chen and Mr. Henson did a really great job of building the tools that the students need to build their reading comprehension and prepare them for academic success. And it really builds confidence. We have to strive to make sure that our lessons are well-rounded, that we have clear objectives, and that they're well prepared. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.